So I'll go ahead and kick this off. Just wanted to say good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Also, thank you for serving on my Veterans Advisory Board. And to those of you who were not able to attend our last meeting, welcome. And I know some of you do double duty on this Veteran Advisory Board as well as my Military Academy board. So I really appreciate your time. And as you probably know by now, supporting our nation's service members and military veterans is one of my top priorities in Congress and will continue to be. It's really a deeply personal issue for me as someone whose family was rescued by the U.S. military and someone who worked at the Pentagon after 9/11. So I carry that kind of framework into the work I do now. And I think at the federal government level, we need to provide our service members and their families with the resources and support necessary to help them complete their missions and to come home safely. And then when our men and women leave the military, whether it's after 4 years or 24 years, I think as a country, we need to fight for them in the same way that they fought for us, whether it's helping them go to trade school or college, or getting a good job, or finding housing, access to healthcare, or even just getting the disability or other payments that they've earned. It's really important that we help out in those areas, and my office stands by to do that. In Florida, as you all probably know, we have a huge active duty and reserve and National Guard presence, and it's home to nearly 1.6 million veterans. So about 10% of our adult population in the state is a veteran or active duty or reserve or National Guard. And my district itself is home to over 50,000 veterans. So as my second term in Congress comes to close, I just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight some of our shared accomplishments in the veteran space over the last 4 years and kind of use that as a framing way to kick off this meeting. And then what I'd like to do is turn it over to you to hear about what issues you think I should be focusing on a go-forward basis, particularly in light of the COVID pandemic. As veteran advocates and community leaders, you know better than anyone what needs to be done to help veterans. And so, I think it's really important to hear from you all. I think of you as my eyes and ears on the ground, and you help inform the work that we do. And I found that as veterans and advocates for veterans, you're really focused on results and not necessarily the rhetoric. You're interested in seeing some concrete actions and not just the talk, because I think a lot of people often say they support veterans, but turning that into action is important to me. And that's why it's been my focus too, just trying to get things done, working across party lines, and trying to identify and solve specific problems. So here are a few things that we've done working together. Past meetings of this council have really directly led to writing good legislation and then enacting it. When we first met in 2017, you all made it clear to me that the DoD Transition Assistance Program needed to be improved. And in 2018, when I was joined by Congressman Jack Bergman of Michigan, we worked together at one of these Veteran Advisory Board meetings. We sort of went off from there and worked together. He's a Republican and a former 3-star Marine general, and we introduced Battle for Service Member Act. And that bill basically sought to improve the training and education given to departing service members so that they're better prepared to go to college or learn a trade or open a small business after leaving military service. And I can't tell you how proud I was when the core of this bill became part of the 2019 National Defense Authorization Act. And that, for congressional work, is lightning speed, unfortunately, because coming up with an idea, writing the legislation, and getting it passed into law all within one term is things don't usually move that fast, but I think it's because we worked together in a bipartisan way and built real support for it. The other thing we were able to do is we led a successful effort to bring a mobile vet center to Seminole County, so that Seminole veterans wouldn't have to travel as far to get their mental health services. And since the mobile vet center was set up in Seminole County, it's now been converted into a permanent site at the Florida Department of Health building in Sanford, and it offers services twice a week. Again, the issue around mental health and access to healthcare was something that this board raised, and we sought to address that. We were also able to get my legislation to increase funding for the Wounded Warrior Program, which is the U.S. House of Reps Wounded Warrior Program. It provides two-year paid fellowships for disabled veterans to work in U.S. House offices. And I think it's important that we have more veterans involved in public policy. They bring incredibly unique experiences to bear on the legislative process, and having been folks who have had to execute on policy made in Washington, their perspective is very, very valuable as we try to craft legislation and make decisions of war and peace. And my office actually hired a Wounded Warrior Fellow, and it's been a real blessing. We also secured millions of dollars in federal funding for the UCF Restores Clinic, which helps veterans overcome PTSD or post-traumatic stress. And they do so using a virtual reality therapy that has very good results. And then finally, I've tried to honor our veterans in different ways. You know, JFK once said that a nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors and the men it remembers. And so, sort of consistent with that idea, I've had 2 ceremonies to honor Vietnam veterans from my district for their service, and I hope to hold more. We're able to just honor their service and provide them with a token of appreciation and recognition. And you know, America has had a proud tradition of you know, expressing appreciation for men and women who fought for this country in times of conflict. But I think too often the treatment of Vietnam veterans, especially in the aftermath of that war, wasn't consistent with this tradition. So you know, in retrospect, it seemed that some members of the public who questioned the wisdom of America's policy decision to be involved in Vietnam didn't properly distinguish that between the war itself and the warriors who volunteered or who were drafted to serve in it. So I know the Vietnam veteran ceremonies are belated by the time I'm holding them, but they're designed to be corrective, really an effort to make sure that our Vietnam veterans know how much their service and sacrifice are appreciated. And then finally, I've tried to honor a local hero named Alwyn Cash. I don't know how many of you know his story, but he was born in Sanford and raised in Oviedo. And 15 years ago, he died as a result of burns he suffered in Iraq when he repeatedly returned to his Bradley fighting vehicle and again pulled his teammates out of the vehicle after it had caught fire after hitting an IED. So he saved other people's lives, but he lost his own. And so we got a bill to name a federal building in Oviedo after him, and we've been fighting to get his Silver Star upgraded to the Medal of Honor. And we had a breakthrough a couple months ago. The Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, basically wrote me a letter saying that he agreed that Cash deserved the Medal of Honor. So we just have to clear one more technical hurdle for this medal to be awarded by the president. And if we do, and this is an interesting but incidental point, Cash will be the first African American to receive the Medal of Honor in a post-Vietnam conflict. So a lot of great work that has come out of our conversations and our time together, and you know, really glad to be back here with you all. I see some new faces joining us this afternoon, so I'd like to start by calling on each of you for a quick introduction so that you can kind of provide a quick introduction to some of the folks who may not already know you, and then we can get started. So let's start with I'll just based on the folks lined up in my Zoom, why don't I start with Baron Mills?
Yeah, for those who don't know me, and if you don't, hopefully we meet sometime in the future pretty soon. I came to Orlando in 2011 as a Marine still. Served 3 years as PM Traces, Program Manager Training Systems in the UCF Research Park area. Ended up retiring in 2016. And about 3 years ago, I started getting involved in all kinds of veteran stuff around the area. I was had blinders on as a Marine. I just did Marine Corps stuff. And I figured out this veteran stuff was going on a few years ago. So main role right now is I'm the executive director for the Florida Association of Veteran Businesses, but I'm also a board member with the Camaraderie Foundation. I'm an instructor locally with 4 Block, and I dabble in some other things. So just my focus is on military transition, veteran employment, and veteran entrepreneurship.
Thanks, Baron. Brian?
Excuse the lateness. I have a bum arm.
Oh, gosh. I hope you're okay.
Yeah, post-military, need to fix my shoulder again. So I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army, retired as a simulation officer. So I have a job down with Research Park with PEO Stry. I look over sustainment contracts for all of the combat training centers, NTC, JRTC, JMRC. I'm also a former commander of the VFW here in Chiliota, or East Seminole County, and still continuing helping them down there. And also I branched out, and I'm also working with the American Legion now. So still helping veterans in the area. And that's about all.
Thanks, Brian. Tommy Maldonado?
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Tommy Maldonado, retired Command Sergeant Major. Came to Florida after I retired in 2003, and 2004 became a veteran service officer here in Orange County, and was back and forth between Orange County and Osceola County as a service officer. I'm now the president of the County Veteran Service Officer Association of Florida. And what we do is we help veterans get all their benefits at no cost. We are county employees, and our job is to help these guys get whatever benefits they're entitled to.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Tierney?
Hi, good afternoon. I am the Veteran Experience Officer here at the Orlando VA. I supervise the patient advocates and concierge staff, and really our goal is to make sure that all of the different touch points that we have with our veterans, that the experiences that they're having are the best that they can be. So we reach out for service recovery. We try to assist any veterans that are having trouble navigating the system, whatever that looks like. And certainly we're here to support from every avenue that we can. So of course, if any of the people on the call need any assistance or anything, they can always feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help.
Thanks, Dr. Tierney. How about John Burns?
Hello, ma'am. John Burns. I'm a retired Army Colonel, a business owner, Eagle 6 Technical Services here in Orlando. Serve on several veterans organizations. I want to thank you for your efforts. For Sergeant Cash, I was in Iraq at the time and it happened. And General Brito is actually his battalion commander. So I think we've got a couple more hurdles, but hopefully it'll get pushed across the line. And interested in your thoughts on some of the efforts to expand Arlington National Cemetery that's going on in the last few months. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Rusty Keeling?
Good afternoon, ma'am. Rusty Keeling. I'm lifelong resident of Seminole County, minus the 22 years I was in the Navy. Retired as a senior chief, went to work for the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs for several years, and recently was hired as the Seminole County Veterans Services Manager. So it's nice to be able to work with the people that I grew up with and their families and things like that. So do the same thing as Tommy does, except just in Seminole County.
Great, appreciate you. Todd Freese.
Good afternoon. Todd Freese. I came to Orlando as an Air Force officer in 2012. I was at the UCF Air Force Arctic Detachment as a commander and retired in 2014. Went to work for UCF for 5 years after that. And following my time at UCF, I took up work with Atlas Space Operations, which is out of Michigan. And I'm remote working from Orlando, so I'm involved in the space business. Interesting note, my first assignment in the Air Force was launching the very first GPS spacecraft, and I ended up my Air Force career in Florida and stayed here thereafter. Involved in the Air Force Association here locally. I'm currently the state vice president for the Air Force Association of Florida. Locally, I've been involved with veteran transition efforts and veteran networking. It's sort of a side hobby passion of mine as well. So thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be a part of the board. Thanks.
Great, thanks. And Aaron Hall.
Hello, I'm Aaron. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I'm currently the Director of Military Student Success at Full Sail University. So really what that entails is really just providing academic support and resources to our over 2,500 military connected students. In addition to being a part of Full Sail and what we have going on there, I am the Vice President of the Florida Advisory Council on Military Education, and I'm also a board member on the Council of Colleges and Military Educators. So I'm very heavily involved and concerned with military and veteran education, especially with being a post 9/11 veteran and having access to that tremendous benefit. That's a big charge of mine. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being with us. And then finally, Fred Robinson. Fred, I think you might have to unmute yourself.
Yes. Yes, Fred Robinson. I served as a sergeant in the United States Marine Corps during Vietnam. I am the Veterans Liaison for VITAS Healthcare, and we educate on end-of-life care so people can come on end-of-life care sooner than later and provide the resources for veterans and their families that they're unaware of. Also, I'm the co-chair of the Orange County Mayor's Veterans Council and a national partner to the 50th commemoration of Vietnam veterans. And thank you so much for my invitation to this call.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, I think that's everybody. So we have had a chance to get to know what everyone's working on, who's a part of this. And I'm deeply appreciative for all the work that you all do in our community on behalf of veterans. Just to answer, John, your question, it looks to me like when, as it relates to Arlington Cemetery, it looks like the government is planning on taking additional land that's near the cemetery to expand it. And I think, I think it's important that we make sure we have enough room to honor folks who have earned the honor of being buried there, and that needs space. I think this is supposed to begin this year and finish in 25, and I'm inclined to be supportive, but I'm not sure if you raise the issue because there are any concerns or issues that you want me to be aware of.
Yeah, there is some criteria issues on how they have kind of narrowed it down a little bit. A little concerning, so that someone with a Bronze Star, it's a Vietnam vet, without a Purple Heart, is the way it stands right now, would not be within the criteria for Arlington. I just think that we need to keep the pressure on in terms of making sure that we're looking at this in the intent that it's supposed to be. And I know there's other cemeteries, but a lot have made lifelong plans for Arlington that I'd certainly like to see that their wishes be able to be granted. And some of them that are Vietnam veterans, the time is now to get the action. Thank you.
Okay, I have my team on this call. Let us take a look at it. And what I can do too is to reach out to the chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, Mark Takano, and see how the standards or the requirements are set and how we go about assessing those standards or making changes to them, and we can get back with you. I know, John, you're fairly close to my office in the sense that we've interacted with you quite a bit, and so my team will keep you posted as we learn the specifics of those requirements and what the next steps are. Well, I'd like to just maybe start with a question for the folks on the line, and then happy to open it up to other things that you think I should be aware of. But, you know, I wanted to start first with the number of service members and veterans who commit suicide. I mean, learning of the mental health needs and such was part of the reason why we worked to get a mobile location to Seminole County. But where do we need more investments in leadership to prevent these tragedies? You know, how do we get more comprehensive, you know, do you think that comprehensive mental health care should be available to veterans regardless of their discharge status? You know, what more can we do? Do we need more research dollars into traumatic brain injury? And I just would love your thoughts on this particular issue, and then happy to talk about other things too, but maybe just use that to kick off the conversation.
Hey, this is Sergeant Major Maldonado, retired, Orange County. I think one of the things that we might want to look at is the part of the transition program to catch these veterans as they come into the counties. The Army started a program just recently about sponsorships. Like in the service, when we go overseas, we're assigned a sponsor that's living overseas to help us when we get there to learn about the different places to go to, where to get the assistance that we need. And the Army started a program trying to do something like that with their transitioning soldiers. So we could do a sponsorship program where we can catch these veterans as they're coming out to us and hook them up with veterans that are already living here, so they won't get into these situations that might lead to all these other problems that they're having that, you know, could cause them to commit suicide, because they can't find a place to live, they can't find a place to work, you know, don't know who to reach out to especially when you come out here for the first time, you don't know who to reach out to. And that's one that we could do as a sponsorship program, because like out of my office, I have veterans coming here all the time. And I can ask and enlist them to be sponsors for veterans that said, yes, I'm coming to Orange County, can I get a sponsor? And we could hook them up with the veteran here to help them transition and alleviate any of those problems that they might be having before they get to that capacity that they want to commit suicide.
That's a really good suggestion. I remember when I arrived at the Pentagon and was on the Navy staff, they assigned me a swimming buddy, but we didn't actually go swimming. We just, they helped me find the bathroom and basically, you know, find my way and sort of welcome me into that community. And that makes all the sense in the world. You know, let me take a look at what programs and what privacy things, and maybe take a look at that Army program. If you can give me the name of the Army program, we'll do a little research and see.
I'll try to track down the name. It was a major that had talked to us about it, but it was just brief, so I didn't catch all the information, but I want to try to track it down so I can say, definitely hook us up over here to be sponsors for these guys that are, and this is mostly for those that already identified that they want to come here. So they would give us the information and we can sponsor them, write letters, says, okay, when you get here, here's where you need to come to first, and we'll work from there.
Great. Brian, did you have?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm going to caveat off of that to try to flush it out a little bit more, and also help veteran organizations as they're going through transition out of the military. Might be a good thing to have them look at joining the VFW or American Legion, because that is an established set of veterans in the area that they might be wanting to move to. Because if they're just getting out of the military and say, I'm moving to Florida, they don't know anybody. But if, as they're transitioning out and they say, hey, I want to move to Orlando, Oviedo, they can get hold of some of the VFW posts and say, hey, I'm moving down there. Can you give me an idea of where I would like to live? Are the houses available, jobs, so on and so forth. Then they get local help right from the post, from the people that live here in the post. And then when they get here, they have a built-in support network already there.
That's a great idea. And I guess I should ask you too, how are the veteran support organizations doing in this economic crisis that we've kind of find ourselves in?
My post didn't do too bad because we own the building. But even then, we had our bartenders and some of the people that pulled a paycheck from us. It was really rough. Some of the other organizations, it was really, really tough going into the red, paying bills and keeping their employees paid. A lot of the aid from DC with I forget the name of it. That helped a lot, but it came late. In fact, I know somebody that just received their checks last week from March timeframe. Yeah, it was a nice check now, but they could have used it the 4 months before that. Yeah. So we banded together. We've done what we had to do. A lot of misunderstandings between open to the public and private organizations. Florida states that there's no public selling of alcohol to anybody. But when they did that and they closed down the VFWs, we lost a lot of outreach. We weren't able to get in touch with a lot of people a lot of time because we weren't able to see each other. We kept phone rosters. A lot of the leadership talked to people, but we have a lot of people that aren't full-time that come down there to see us all the time. So we lost a lot of outreach to those people and to the community because we weren't open or available to them.
Yeah, I'll tell you, a lot of the VSOs really depended on their funding sources. If they were relying on events and so forth, and they really got hit hard because you could almost not. I mean, you try to do some virtual stuff, but it's very hard to pull in enough money as past years through that. I can tell you in the case of camaraderie, definitely benefited from PPP, being able to offset salary costs for a while, and then also benefited from an unexpected about $250,000 donation from a local corporation that, again, it just worked out. They had the money and the ability to give it and so forth. But I would tell you that I think same as a lot of small businesses are just on the cusp of going out of business. If there's some influx of business or support, probably the same thing for a lot of VSOs out there.
Any other thoughts either on the mental health question originally or VSO and kind of the economic impact on?
Well, if I can't, I don't, even though I'm the Camaraderie Foundation's board, I'm not very knowledgeable on the mental health piece and everything. But as it's kind of been mentioned here, I think it all depends on giving that veteran a sense of purpose. Even if they couldn't wait to get out of the service, I feel like most of them realize months later or a couple of years later, man, I really miss what I had when I was serving. And so whether that's a job, volunteer opportunity, whatever the case is, they need that. And that's where a lot of the miss is. And Tommy's right on point with, so many of the veterans, we don't have a big active duty population here. So our veterans, they're not finishing up the career in the area. They're finishing up the career somewhere else and then either come back home or I know plenty who are just rolling the dice and saying, Orlando sounds like a place to go. Let me go there. But when they get here, what's the professional network to tap into? Where are the job opportunities and so forth? And some companies truly value bringing on veterans, and some see it as a tax write-off or something kind of do and everything. And in the end, that's not going to work out because unless there's a mutual desire between both the company and the veteran, it's only going to last 6 months or 12 months or so forth. So that's why, like I said, things I push are things like, so this DoD Skill Bridge program, anything can be done to finally start educating our companies in the area about it, because it's starting to take hold in the services. And the problem is you got a lot of transition military looking for opportunities to have have these 3 to 6 month intern fellowship roles in Orlando, and there's nothing being offered and so forth. So we can get that word out there and let corporations, companies know, hey, you can have a transition military member work at no cost to you outside of giving them a place to work and responsibilities. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
An interesting idea. I think you put your finger right on it, though, that part of the mental health struggle is that lost sense of purpose, especially for veterans who are newly out of the service. But I know we continue to need to be able to connect veterans at whatever stage they're at to services, mental health services when they need it. But certainly there's things that you can do before that to make sure that transitions into communities as well as transition into life after work or life after the military goes more smoothly. And Tommy, I think you worked with local VA hospital on a post-TAPS program to help connect veterans with services that they're eligible for once they get an area. So like what kinds of experiences have you had in helping in that transition?
A lot of the stuff is the veterans just don't know what's available, what type of services are available, who's here to help them. And that's why we came up with that post-TAP concept. Is we bring all the different people, all the different services that are available to the Orlando VA Medical Center. They got a tour of the VA Medical Center. They got a chance to enroll, and then they got a chance to talk to all the different providers, both VA providers and, you know, nonprofit providers that are here specifically to help them manage whatever crisis they may have. And if they ever, even if they don't need them right now, if they ever do need one, my intent is to put a little pamphlet together that they walk out with and says, hey, if you ever need help, here's the numbers. Don't be shy. That's what we're here for.
Rusty, did you have a comment?
No, ma'am. I was just I was going to kind of follow up with Tommy that we were supposed to have another follow-up post-TAP event in August, but this whole COVID thing kind of threw a wrench in that.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, if we continue to do something like that, not only in the the VA here in Orlando, but VAs across the country, they could do that. They could help service members going wherever they're going to, and getting the right people in there for the TAP classes. Having a person from the VBA going into brief a TAP class is different from a veteran service officer going in and briefing a TAP class. So I know that in the past they haven't had, like at Patrick, they used to have a VBA person go in there because it was contracted out, and they wouldn't let the VSO go in there. But that information that they're putting out is not the same as information as that we would put out as a VSO. Being there and have done that, and representing those veterans and giving them points of contact where for people to go. But as far as the the mental health aspect as well, is it's always going to be about availability. Getting people in there, getting the doctors in there, because you may have to. A veteran may have an office visit with a mental health provider and not have a follow-up visit for 30 days or however long, because there's just so many veterans that need that mental health assistance, but not enough providers. And I know with the COVID thing, the groups have kind of gone away, and I know that you have the Zoom thing, but this is about the most impersonal thing that we can do is Zoom meetings. I know that we kind of we have to do that, but we got to be able to get back to getting people in there and getting with their friends, because that's what they look forward to doing, is coming in and seeing their friends and seeing the people that are treating them, and having that experience. And there's got to be a point where they got to be able to start going in there a lot soon, very soon, or you're gonna have more problems.
Yeah, I want to just follow on to that comment and ask you what the experience has been on the telemedicine that's been used by the VA health system. What have you been hearing about veterans? It sounds to me like you're saying that it's not sufficient. It's really time to get back in person when it comes to healthcare visits. But what else have you heard about the VA use of telemedicine during this time?
Well, I mean, that telehealth is good for some people, but it's not good for everybody. If you have people that aren't, and I know that the VA is, one of the guys that worked for me, he just got an iPad. The VA just gave him an iPad so he could communicate back and forth with his mental health provider. I don't know how effective that is. I think, and that's just my opinion. I know some people enjoy the Zoom type meetings because they don't have to travel, but it may not benefit. So I don't know the answer to that question. I haven't heard any negative feedback about it regarding. I just know that You know, when I was working in the clinics with the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs, if a veteran came in and they needed, you know, was in crisis mode, sometimes they would sit for a long time before they could get a person to come out, or a nurse to come out and talk to them. So they put them in the waiting room and they'd be waiting, and, you know, and it's not any of the VA's fault because there's appointments set up all day long, but there would be, you know, they'd be sitting there waiting for, you know, a good portion of the time, you know, a little while before they could get somebody in there to get and to actually see them. You know, some people love the telehealth. Some people don't like it at all. So, you know, 5 people can tell me telehealth's great. 5 people come in and tell me that they hate telehealth. They want to get face to face. So I don't know if there's a sounding board that you can say, we need to do this. But I know that there's certain things, you know, like some of these groups like the Vet Center has or has had, and some of the VA mental health, that's one thing that the veterans used to look forward to, is going to those groups.
Yeah.
Especially those combat guys.
Brian, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, since this has started, I've actually been doing a lot of telehealth with the VA down at Lake Nona. And I enjoy it because I get an appointment. If I say 3:30 on a Tuesday, the doctor or whoever I'm talking to shows up at 3:30. When I go down there, sometimes you're going to be waiting for a while. So I like that. You get to do the initial screenings, which is only face-to-face like this, where you can tell them exactly what's going on. You can show some limited stuff, get your initial consult done. And then I have been down to Lake Nona a couple of times as the follow-up, so they can actually see me and physically check my shoulder. Or I've also been doing, requested some help on my lower back and chiropractic treatments. So I actually enjoy it a lot, because instead of 6 or 7 trips down there from Oviedo, it was twice. So I saved time, gas, money, and I didn't have to take any time off from my job.
Yeah. So it sounds like having it as part of the mix has worked for you. Anybody else?
Can I weigh in for just a second on this? So a couple of things. One, our mental health group has done a really great job of really leading with the whole telemedicine. So they were able to transition a lot of their appointments very quickly over to VBC or some sort of virtual modality. And then, so I'm actually the one who looks at all of our veteran feedback to see how people feel about different things, whether they have concerns, recommendations, or compliments. And we've actually gotten really great feedback on the virtual modalities, and especially when people felt very unsafe to go into a facility, the feedback was great. And then I think at this point, you know, depending on what you have going on, so if you have a shoulder issue and someone needs to take a look, or, you know, you have a problem with your tooth in the back of your mouth, you know, you need to go in and have someone take a look at that. And so we're really trying to balance both the safety mechanism and then also really have people have the ability and accessibility to be able to get in with the virtual modalities. And then we recently hired a new outreach coordinator, so I wanted to make sure that everyone has his name as well. His name is Nestor Rodriguez. And so he's working on trying to really get some good outreach opportunities set up, even though a lot of people are doing things virtually. So he would be more than happy to talk with any of you and take part in any activities that you guys are doing with the veterans to be able to help reach more veterans as well. So if you have not connected with him, he would love to connect with you. And then I also had one other comment on the topic of suicide prevention. I actually reached out during the conversation to our suicide prevention team to ask them if they had anything that Congress could do to assist that they felt like would be helpful, because while we see lots of veterans here at the VA, you know, a large number of veterans who do struggle with suicide are not even patients of the VA. And so really it's that outreach, it's in the community. And so what they had said is funding support for building VA programs where VA can also combined with local community organizations to be able to really reach those veterans who maybe aren't patients of the VA, so not at a VA facility, but out in the community. Because we really do want to be able to reach those people before it gets to the point where it's too late.
And that sounds like that would be useful for the VSOs in this moment as well. Let me, again, my team is on this call. If I can get one of you guys to do a little research as to the appropriations line item that gets allocated to VA collaborations with community VSOs. That sounds like something that, you know, the appropriations process is actually one of the more reliable, even though we do continuing resolutions and shutdowns occasionally, but that's one way that we are able to try to direct resources to our community. So let us take a look at that. That's a great idea.
Dr. I have one more question, and I don't know if this is available, but Dr. Tierney, I've seen Nestor at a couple events, so he's out there. Great. I know that.
Awesome. Perfect.
You know, I see a lot, you know, when I'm out in the community, I see a lot of, I guess, community providers, for lack of better terms. I don't know how that are asking, you know, they send this veteran here for this problem, send this veteran here for that problem. I don't know who, and I would not send a veteran to anybody besides the VA unless I had a list of people that the VA recommends. Because, you know, you always go to, you know, anywhere there's an outreach place, there's a place that provides mental health for veterans at no cost. Well, is it really at no cost, and what kind of backgrounds do these people have? I know I'm confident or comfortable sending and confident that the veteran's going to get the care if I send them to the VA or if I send them to the vet center. But if I send them to, you know, the adult crisis center down on First Street in Sanford that supposedly works with veterans, A, are they going to charge them? And B, are they legitimate people to send them to? So as a VSO and as a veteran, I don't feel comfortable sending people out to that place. So I don't do that unless, you know, I would see something that says, hey, we can send them to these people and the VA recommends them, or the VA is going to back up their issues. I don't know if that's an issue with anybody else or not, but that's a concern of mine.
Yeah, I mean, with 45,000 approximate VSOs in the country, of course, there's some bad ones out there and you want to avoid them. You don't want to get, I mean, you hear plenty of stories from folks that have given money to somebody for no reason whatsoever that they could have gotten the support for free from somebody else. Does the VA actually do that? Does the VA?
I'm not talking about VSOs. I'm talking about specific mental health providers.
I know, but does the VA actually endorse anybody outside of their own system? I don't know if that's the case or not.
I think typically what happens is I think the people that we work with really closely for mental health or any of the other specialties really are going to be part of kind of our healthcare process. So like we have the Mission Act, so we'll send people out through the Mission Act, and those people are vetted and there's feedback on the care that they provide. But as far as people in the community that do not work for the VA or that aren't contracted with the VA through something like the Mission Act, I don't know that we can endorse them unless they were completely non-for-profit, you know, because there's so many lines that get super sticky. So I don't know that we necessarily endorse other providers out there, but I will ask the mental health team and see if maybe they have any information. If I can't get that information immediately on this call, I'll get it back to you guys.
I see that Tim Cook has joined us. Thanks so much for joining us. And I don't know if you were waving to say hi or you had something to say about the topic.
Well, both. Thank you. Sorry, I was a little late joining. We're finishing up some other business. But what I would say is that no, we don't generally refer to outside other than within that kind of network opportunity. But there are a lot of groups that we do refer veterans to connect with. And sometimes that we have to be very, very cautious about what that means. You know, I can send someone to Operation Healing Waters, for example, and say, hey, there's a great opportunity to get veterans together and have some meaningful learning opportunities on how to fly fish and do those things. But at the end of the day, if someone says, I really need some mental health assistance, we're gonna set them up via an appointment, and they're gonna go to a system, part of a system that we can track their care. Because if we refer people out without that, then there's really no way for us to maintain that continuity over time. So I just throw that out there.
I'd like to share an experience I had here probably within the last month. I had a mother bring her son to us who needed mental health counseling. And this was a couple months ago when we were still heavy into the COVID lockdowns. And she thought that we were providing the service, and I told her no. So what I recommended to her was to take him directly to the VA emergency room at the hospital, and he would get treatment there to make sure that she provided the information that they needed. He came back from war. He's got all these issues. She says, he's got an expired ID card. I said, that's enough. Just get him over there. Let them assess him. So 2 days later, she comes back and she thanked me, and she says, I asked her, did he get treatment while he was there? She goes, yes, he got treated there, and he got 3 follow-up appointments that he's scheduled for already. 2 days later, he came back here, and we started working on his claim for VA benefits to help him get more benefits out of it. So it's working. I mean, as long as we know, and that's the second mother that I've had in the last 4 years that brought their son into us to get help. So it'll work.
That is a great story, and it shows how when the VA and local organizations have existing connections and networks, you can work together for the benefit of the veterans community. Going back to what Dr. Tierney suggested around resources for programs where there's collaboration, that's definitely a testimonial for having that connection, a stronger connection between the VA and VSOs in the community. Is that way nobody gets lost in the cracks, right? Like you can find ways to provide the various support that's needed. That's great.
I could throw in one more comment, because
Yeah,
I
sure.
to tab onto what Tommy was just talking about, is that when we see that there's another maybe it could be a homeless veteran, someone that doesn't have someone else to look out for them. When they come here, we're doing, full case management. I mean, they really do take over the ownership of that veteran until they get to a place where they need to be. And it could be a HUD-VASH, which is a fantastic program. And having the ability to place a veteran in a home, have it paid for, by partially at least by the VA, and then still be able to maintain a part of their care. And one of the great things that we've experienced is the outreach that the VSOs are doing with those organizations. So the social workers that are working with our teams here are also working with the veteran service organizations in the community. So there's really a wonderful fabric that is built to help, not to let people slide through, and so that we always think about just the immediate mental health need, but it's the wraparound service that's going to be needed 6 months, 8 months, a year and a half from now.
Tim, can I pull a thread of what you just said? Can you tell me a little bit more about the VA specific HUD resources that you're talking about?
The HUD-VASH, the VA supported housing. Yeah. So, and I'd have to give you I'll have to get back to you on the exact number of HUD-VASH veterans that we have, but this is working with the Public Housing Authority and making sure that they have adequate, I guess, relative speaking, Section 8 established housing, safe places, good environments, good follow-up and system. And some of our veterans that
are placed into HUD-VASH, it's the first time they've had a home in, could be decades, that they've spent on the street. So when the PHA and our HUD-VASH team and the VSOs team up, there really does make a lot of wonderful connections, because there's more to it than care.
Yeah.
There's a lot of community activity that still has to take place. Learned opportunities that strengthen their ability to live and thrive.
Do you feel like you have adequate resources as it relates to HUD-VASH? Like, do you have enough for the demand in Orlando? Because in our area, we have a pervasive housing issue. And I'm always looking for people and entities that are already working in this space, where if we just push them additional Fed resources, we can continue to chip away at the problem at the various angles. And certainly veteran homelessness is one of these issues. And I'm just curious,
Sure.
what your experience with that.
I would say it really depends upon the locale.
Mm-hmm.
The VA is tremendous with resources. In fact, if we find that there's a new development that can be established, or with a number of houses that they might be able to set aside for veterans, we'll make sure that we request additional HUD-VASH vouchers. We'll actually take them from one particular area that might be underutilized and request to relocate those vouchers to another area, so that veteran can get in. And but it really is so dependent on the public housing authority. And so because it's outside of the VA's span of control, if there's only one person that can do home inspections for that community in that county, that's all as far as we can go, is the number of slots that might be available. And so there might be a huge demand, a lot of veterans, a lot of needs, and even the vacancy rate might be high enough. But if there's only one person or two people managing that for the county, it's sort of not as a high of priority as the innumerable volume that they get for others, and particularly right now with COVID, as people are struggling overall. So if there's a way that I would say could help, would be to infuse some of the maybe a connected assistance between the VA and the Public Housing Authority, so that they could team up for veterans.
Congressman, if I could, I'd like to put you in touch with Steve Smith. Steve's a Navy vet. He's on the Orlando Housing Authority, appointed by Mayor Dyer. He gave us a brief last year regarding the problems with HUD-VASH in this area right now. And primarily what it is, they stopped issuing vouchers because there weren't enough landlords and property managers willing to take them and so forth. So there's a big enough problem that Steve has been looking at forming his own nonprofit this year, because he didn't think that the current system will tackle it and stuff. So he gave us numbers last year. I can't imagine they've changed much. I'd be happy to forward that and his contact info to Mark and your staff.
I would love to do that. And then what, Tim, you were suggesting is the idea of connected programming around this particular area. And then that way it's a multiplier effect of what everybody's already doing, just helping people do it better together, right? And so, Baron, if you'll get me that additional information, I'd love to kind of talk to him about what are some of the areas that, what he's seen on the ground, and how, from a federal perspective, we can try to either provide the resources or the support to make it work better.
I'll tell you, as Tim is kind of, it's really local though. Like there's the guidelines are out there. It depends on how the local community utilizes those guidelines and resources and so forth.
So with good investment though, I mean, there are ways to do this with local investors and people that want to get together to help veterans to even build housing.
Right.
To do that, or to take over full blocks of an area to say, we'd love to dedicate this specifically to our homeless veterans. And that makes a I think, a wonderful step from both directions, because, you know, we've got the resources that we could apply if it's available. We just need something to be available.
I worked with the HUD VASH in Daytona for a year, and getting the vouchers wasn't a problem. We could get vouchers all day long. The issue was finding a place that would pass the inspection for the Daytona Beach Housing Authority, and B, getting where the veteran could pass the background investigation and move into the apartment. So that's another issue. I mean, you can get a HUD VASH as long as you don't have a sexual charge on you, but you can't get into, move into a said, apartment complex if you have certain charges, if you have evictions and things like that. So we were limited to the people that would take them, and they're not the most nicest areas in the world to put them in. And, and then once they would pass, then the landlord fixed up just enough would pass the inspection, wouldn't touch it again for a year. The veteran would probably lose the voucher because the housing authority wouldn't pass it. He'd have to move out. We have to find him somewhere else to live. So that's one of the other issues with that is finding the places. And, Mr. Cook had a great idea there, is if you can, if you can find an apartment complex or find somewhere that you can dedicate just to that, it would be very helpful. But, that's the hard part, is finding people that are going to, and the amount that the HUD's going to pay. They're limited to $700 or $800 a month. And, if they can get more than that, that's for a 1-bedroom, and then it goes up from there. And, so there's ways to fix the issue, but you got to have the people who are willing to want to fix the issue. And it's not us we want to fix the issues. The landlords that want to allow somebody to come in there. I mean, there's apartment complexes that when we walked in with our badges and said we're HUD VASH, they'd say, "Oh, get out of here. We're not taking it anymore."
Well, one of the areas that is helpful, and what I've been pushing for, is expanded low-income housing tax credit that basically provides an incentive for builders to create more volume, more supply in housing that can be used for, whether it's HUD VASH or other voucher affordable housing types of programs. And so it sounds like this is another area which would be benefited by getting that expanded low-income housing tax credit through, so that we can increase supply. We're coming up on our hour, and I'm mindful of your time and so appreciative that you spend time with me. And we've covered a little bit of telehealth, mental health, housing, and the connection between VA and VSO. I was wondering, I just wanted to throw it back out to everybody, if there's anything, burning that you want to let me know about in the community, and so that, my office is aware. Of course, this is not your last chance to let my office know. I think all of you are in fairly contact with my office, know how to get a hold of us. But so we don't have to just save it for our board meetings, but I just wanted to throw out the opportunity for anybody who had any saved rounds.
I just wanted to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to get together and letting the VA be a part of this. We're a big organization, and there's a lot of things happening, but there's nothing more important than what is going on in the world that you all live. And so when we know about it, it really does help us make those connections, find different pathways. So I just wanted to say thank you for putting this together and keeping the dialogue going on some very, very important issues. Unfortunately, I gotta run. I'm off to it, but thank you again. I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Take care. Amber's going to stick around. Amber and Courtney, you got you.
Any other saved rounds?
Yeah, this is Todd Freeze. A couple things was thinking about. I'll go back to what Baron was talking about for giving vets a sense of purpose and supporting them. There's been a fairly effective program inside of Florida. It's a vet entrepreneurial program. Now working in small business myself, actually the interest in the company that I work for is in Jack Bergman's district. So work for one in his and live in yours. So
that's awesome.
There is a lot of opportunity for veterans who transition. One thing they know is the DOD. And I can tell you, working small business, you know, if you're a small business disabled veteran set aside, there are government contracts that they want to throw at you. The challenge is to get, you know, certified, to learn how to use the different federal programs, to find those opportunities, to be a consultant, to bring in some information or skill set, and funding those programs at a national level, I think could help our veterans learn that, you know, they can be a small business owner, and that could be just them as a consultant or a small group. But there's nothing more American than about being a small business owner. And I would say these people are uniquely qualified to know quite a bit about being in the military. So, or working for the Department of Defense. So there's opportunities there to, I think, to support our veterans in the area. And maybe there's an examination. I'm not sure how Veteran in Florida is funded, either from federal funneled through state funds, or it's a state opportunity altogether. But it's been fairly effective. It teaches people to develop a business plan, pitch it. So,
yeah, you're right there. And I agree with you about veterans' suitability for running their own businesses. And so there are SBA entrepreneurial development programs that I seek additional resources for every year. They provide counseling, best practices, help navigate some of these, and they have programs for veterans specifically too. Most are located at the Entrepreneurship Center that's at the Orlando Fashion Mall. And so, but we'll continue to look and see how oversight on the program, see if they're effective in launching these businesses, and if the resources are meeting the demand. But that's a good flag. Baron, did you have something else?
Oh, I was just commenting to Todd that Veterans Florida is definitely funded by the state right now. I don't know if they have a timeline given to them or not, but I think part of their mandate is they're supposed to figure out how to not be funded by the state in the future. So I know one of the things we're looking for is ways to, you know, raise revenue on their end and so forth. But if I can give a pitch for FAVA, I mean, that's one of the things we're trying to make sure we do is be that connecting source so that veterans who are interested know how to go through the Veterans Florida program, or to go through the Vet to CEO program, or Warriors Rising, or Bunker Labs. I mean, you know, when I took over the role of executive director, one of the things I realized was we don't need to create a program in this organization to introduce entrepreneurship and business ownership to veterans. They're already out there. We just need to figure out where they all are and be and assist people in finding the right ones. It's the amount of resources to start a business is pretty crazy. But you got to be willing to put the time in to execute it and so forth.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're a few minutes over, so I just want to go ahead and wrap up, and I owe John a little research on the Arlington Cemetery thing. We're going to take a look at some of the ideas that were proposed here and see what the feasibility and how we can affect it at the federal level around housing and mental health and VSO, VA connectability programs, as well as we'll take another peek at the entrepreneurial programs, SBA kind of entrepreneurial programs. And then I think the other big value of having these, other than me getting some feedback from you all, is you all getting to know each other and having an opportunity. I know you work together all the time, but it's always great for me to see everybody together, and appreciate all of you for taking time to be a part of this board. And again, you don't have to wait until our board meetings to reach out to my office. We're available at any point. And I know that you advocate on behalf of veterans and work to get them their benefits, but we also have caseworkers who do that too. So if you run into a particularly prickly situation and want our assistance, I know you know Kyle Thorpe in my office well, and we're standing by to help in whatever way we can, because I think we all have the same shared goal of helping veterans in our community. So with that, thank you all so much for joining me today, and I hope you all stay safe, be well, and look forward to our next conversation. Great. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.